Hey guys, welcome to the Limitless MD podcast. I'm your host, Vikram, Raya, and today is a very special episode. I'm going to do a special mashup. I'm going to have 7 of the best physicians and influencers that I've interviewed on my podcast, and we're going to do a cool mashup. We're going to have Tom Burns talking about why doctors don't get rich, Ravi Gupta on how to be a limitless MD, Ankeet Udani talking about physician strategies for wealth and abundance, Kristina talking about how to be a Renaissance physician, Dr. Peter Kim, the one and only, talking about what holds doctors back. And we're going to talk about to Jordan Frey about turning bad debt into wealth. And finally, Brandon Hall will talk about the top mistakes physicians make. All right. Enjoy the episode. What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? My name is Vikram Raya, functional cardiologist, high performance coach, and real estate expert. And I'm here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life so you can unlock your limitless potential and achieve greatness, all the while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in.
An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. Okay. A liability is something that takes it out of your pocket. So your Tesla and your golf clubs are taking money out of your pocket. They're not bringing any money back. So you want something that's going to be out there producing income, preferably when you sleep, when you play with your kids, when you're at work, when you're on vacation. It doesn't matter. The stuff just keeps coming in and you can't stop it. That's what an asset does for you. Liabilities, on the other hand, they bleed you. And liabilities are the payments on your car, the payments on your house, believe it or not. Some will say that's an investment, but that's an argument we can have later. But, those are not creating income for you. And so you would like to eliminate those consumer liabilities, like to not be paying, you'd hopefully not be paying on time for your furniture and be nice to get that car paid off. There are times when, depending on the rate you're paying, when you can use that money to buy an asset. So there's a big, long discussion for that, but try to limit your liabilities.
So you're putting assets in. These are putting money in your pocket. They're essentially working for you even when you're not working. And that's really, a lot of people say, what's the secret to being rich or wealthy or, really successful and create generational wealth? It's not that complicated. It's adding these assets into your asset column and reducing your liabilities. And it's essentially leverage professionally and deleverage personally. It's almost like, use the smart debt to get these kind of assets. And, right. And obviously everyone knows real estate. It's one of the most common asset classes and it's really approachable, but let's go deeper because the people who listen to the podcast, Tom, they're really sophisticated, they're really smart. A lot of them are not newbies. So I want you to now unlock that brain of yours and share with me maybe 3 or 5 other asset classes that are sort of overlooked that people maybe can add to their asset column.
Yeah. There's debt. You can buy debt, and you can arbitrage that and make a profit on that. Like factoring, you've got things like that. There are streams of income you can buy. That's one. Doesn't have quite the tax benefits of real estate. That's one of the many beauties of real estate. You can buy into a business. You do that when you buy stock. I'm not the biggest fan of the stock market, but you can buy directly into a business and hopefully get a percentage of profits. There are private funds out there that invest in all kinds of things. I've got one that we buy software companies, profitable software companies. So there's all are physicians. There are a lot of people out there with medical devices. Now there's a risk strata that goes through, there is more risk on early stage things and there's a little less risk on the real estate side. So, and then there's alternatives. My friend Dave Zook does ATMs. Most of the docs have probably heard about that. I've got money in that. There's oil and gas for physicians. Oil and gas can be a good one.
Ultimately, the purpose in life, right, is to be happy, right? Everybody wants a sense of happiness. Now, what does that mean to each individual? And that's the question. Well, there's a good formula that Tony Robbins often says, it's if your blueprint equals your life conditions, then you're happy. What does that mean? Well, the blueprint is what you think life should be like. Hey, I think life should be like, I work 5 days a week, 9 to 5, and I have the weekends off and all that stuff. If that's what you think life should be like, and your life conditions are exactly that, that equals happiness. Now, there's sometimes when your life conditions are actually better than your blueprint, then you're ecstatic. Like, for example, for me, with kids, I was thinking having kids would be a certain thing, way, and I'd be in a certain state and have fun with them. But it far exceeded all my expectations. So I just am enthused about being a father and spending time with my kids. So ultimately, and then if it happens the other way where your life conditions don't meet your blueprint, then you don't feel happy. The happiness is gone. So either you change your life conditions or you change your blueprint and how you perceive things. So that is, and following your passions is your blueprint, right? You have to follow your passions. So you have to create the life conditions so that you can follow your passions. And that's what you have to create. I think a wonderful book, and I'm actually reading this book again. I'm reading it right now. It's Hal Elrod's book, Miracle Equation. It's very easily, it's nicely written. It's easy to digest, but it has so many powerful points and pearls in there. I would highly suggest your listeners to read that book if they haven't already.
Hey, Ravi, since you mentioned Hal, let's talk about his Miracle Equation. What is it?
Yeah, so the Miracle Equation, it is extraordinary effort plus extraordinary faith. It can equal any goal, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So unwavering faith, extraordinary effort.
Yeah, and
is what it is.
And he said it right. It's extraordinary. So there's ordinary effort that most people give, and there's extraordinary effort. So it's like you go to your limit and then +1, +2, +3. So really pushing that, and then having the faith. So it's like one of my favorite quotes I like to go by is be impatient with your actions, but patient with your results. Give us some strategies and advice for these doctors who, they're mid-career, they're successful, and now they're looking for the now what. Can you help them answer the now what? Like what's the steps?
Yeah. So I think, the biggest step is admitting that your calendar is full, but you need to create time for yourself and for your self-investment. That's your first step. You need to prime yourself to be ready to explode. And what does that mean? For me, what does that mean? I just swore off watching TV. I found myself, I'd come home, I'd have, fun at work, do great things for patients, come home, play with the kids, hang out with my wife, do great things. I was comfortable. And then I would just put on the Daily Show and let Trevor Noah just kind of like 60 minutes, laughter, news, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, oh, this is good. I'd fall asleep on the couch, go to bed, wait, just, and like repeat. And it was great. I'm not saying that it wasn't fun, but when I really wanted to flip the switch and like look at my calendar and like figure out where can I find more me time where it's like an investment and growth, it wasn't coming from the Daily Show. It was entertainment, and it probably fit, helped me de-stress or something, but it wasn't growth. So what did I do? I just cut TV out completely every night, still do the family time, all that stuff. But then as soon as I, was done, get in bed, comfort, listen to some nice music, and just read. And then, there's millions of books to, recommend on this journey, and everybody's at a different stage in their journey. But these books were catalysts. Like I would listen to, Craig Ballantyne, I'd listen to Tony Robbins, I'd listen to all these great writers that are pouring their experiences into books, and it reading these like positive, enriching ideas, like right when you're going to bed, was just, I'd still like get tired and fall asleep reading, and I would start maybe 2 pages earlier the next day. But it was so positive, right? It was such a great way to end the day, and then it would rewire me, wake me up early in the morning. So, to make your answer short, I think look at your calendar, look at your schedule, carve out daily time to invest in yourself, and go for it. Cut out some of the stuff that's not really helping you grow, even though it might feel good. try to cut it out and grow.
What do you say to those physicians who are not yet taking this step into their highest and best self?
I think the first thing to do is really define for yourself, what is it that you want to do? And it's okay that you don't know exactly, but after you identify what are your dreams, what are your aspirations, I think the second thing is have that very open discussion with your husband or your partner or your significant other, because you do need that support to make sure that the house is balanced. Let them know, and let them also share what their opinions are and what their thoughts are, and if they can fully support you. And it may not be the time to get supported at that time, and for other reasons, right? Like an elderly parent that you need to take care of or what have you. But once you have, at least for us in our household, like once I had the support of my husband, then I knew that our journey was limitless.
And I know that one of the reasons why you're able to pull this off, Kristina, is because you believe in extreme self-care. And that's something like I notice as a pattern among all the high performers I interview. Self-care. And what does that self-care mean to you? And what does your protocol look like? So maybe we can learn.
What I do for self-care is I work out 5 to 6 times a week. Again, I work 60 to 100 hours on most weeks of the month, but I still find time, whether that's a 12-minute Tabata, whether that's a 15-minute heavy weight workout, whether that's getting some yoga in, whether that's a HIIT. I find whatever my body needs, and that's what I go. Most of the time, though, I do get a good 45-minute workout in. Some other self-care measures I have taken and I have learned from our tribe, meaning the Limitless MD tribe and the our mighty network, is meditation. And I don't know that I believed in that at all. However, Vikram convinced me that I could just start 3 minutes a day. And that 3 minutes has led to 30 minutes almost 5 times a week at this point.
Oh.
And so there is actually a really phenomenal physician, cardiologist. Her name is Disha Phillips. And if you guys want to follow her,
They'll be in the show notes, guys.
Yeah, she's on meditation for female physicians on Facebook. And she is just full of energy. And what I love about her, what inspires me to wake up at 6 a.m. and listen to her is there's a theme for the morning. She always shares like a patient physician story, which I can personally connect to. And then she picks a card. And then that card is the meditation, sets the tone for the meditation. And then we go into our silent meditation. So there's a pattern. And because it's so structured, my brain does very well with that.
When I ask doctors all the time, do you think your life will be better as a doctor in terms of autonomy, financially, emotionally, whatever, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? How's it going to be? Almost every single person says it's going to be worse than it is today, right? And that's just the trajectory we're going. I don't think anybody needs to tell you that. Like with everything going on politically, regulatory, the way medicine is going, we're putting ourselves in a hole if right now we're not preparing for that. And so that's really what motivated me, to be honest with you, to get started with a lot of this stuff. I mean, you mentioned fear, like of messing up. There's definitely the fear of failure there that I was like worried about, like, oh man, what if I lose this money? Or what if I make a bad move? But what actually motivated me more was like, what if I did nothing? Like if I did nothing, what's my life going to look like in 5-10 years? And I was like, holy cow, if I do nothing, I'm going to be guaranteed to be in a worse spot. I'm going to be in a place worse than, and I'm going to wish I had started, earlier. And so that's what really motivates me now today. And that's what I tell people in terms of advice. Don't listen to people who say, just be a doctor. You're going to be fine. You're going to get taken care of. You're going to do well. I don't believe that anymore. I think it's actually critical to create your own security.
During the COVID crisis, Peter, you really stepped up as a leader in our physician community. And you really, wanted to help physicians. What made you do that? What were you worried about, or what were physicians complaining to you during the COVID crisis? And what was the big wake-up call that everyone was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think you were right there, in it with me, and you were doing the same. And I think it was that we saw so many doctors really hit the wall. I mean, we all thought, a lot of people thought it was truly secure to be a physician. And like, at least we had the financial security, at least we had the job security, right? But what happened during COVID, the rules changed. So many things happened that were obviously not predictable. There are so many physicians I know that lost their job, lost their position, were put on furlough. Income-wise, were put in a much worse situation. And none of that was in their control. And I've talked about it for a while, where I said, financial security medicine is a myth. I used to say that. I put it out there. In fact, I put an article out there one time, and just people blasted me on Doximity, saying, "Oh, you're ridiculous. That's the one place where the demand will always be there. You don't have to worry, blah blah blah." And then what happened during COVID? Right? I was also part of that, where my group came in and told me, "Guys, for the next couple months, just so you know, you're all going to get paid 30% less." And so that was it, right? But we still had our obligations and our families. And I understand that's the way the world worked and things were going crazy, but it doesn't feel good. And so during COVID, a lot of people were also down, and obviously it was stressful and nobody knew what was going on. Morale was probably at an all-time low in terms of the physician world. It was scary. I mean, I was scared too. I go to the hospital, you get gowned up and, these suits, and you come back and your kid wants to come hug you, and you're like, don't touch me. And you didn't know whether you should be sleeping in a hospital.
You have to go decontaminate, right?
I know. I didn't know whether I should be sleeping in a hotel for this time. I mean, it just didn't feel good, and felt really isolated from the world and from family and communities and all this stuff. And during this time, I remember going to my community. I have a Facebook group, and I went to them and I said, "What's the number one thing I can do for you right now and support you?" And it wasn't like I had these great ideas. And what they did overwhelmingly, they said, "We want to figure out how to get control back. We want to figure out how to create other income streams outside of medicine, so that we're not beholden to this in case this goes on for a while, in case this happens again." And I was like, oh, I mean, I know people who have done this. I mean, that's the one thing I think I have as a strength, is I've been connected to a lot of great people like yourself and all these other people who are doing really cool things outside of medicine. And so I just brought those stories together to people. And it's just amazing to see how much it resonated with people, created an impact. And I feel like in some ways it started like some sort of mini movement of physicians really trying to get out there and take back control, right? Try different things. And so many people have launched businesses during that time, right? Coaching careers, started investing in real estate. And I feel like, in some way, if I, participated in that, was part of that journey, then that's like super exciting for me.
So Jordan, let's do this. I have two types of archetypes that probably, we need to help right now. There's the young attending who's just getting out. And then there's the mid-career attending who's like, okay, I'm doing some things, but I want to go, what's next level?
To the next level.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the young attending, maybe between 1 to 3 years coming out. What are like the top 3 steps you'd recommend for them?
The top 3 steps, one, just start educating yourself. And what I did was I just started reading 10 pages of a finance book. It was The Millionaire Next Door. I said, I'm going to try to read 10 pages a day. And that would easily allow me to read 1 book per year, but those were my goals. And my other one was, I said, I'm going to pick a finance blog and I'm going to read 1 post a day. And I still do that today. And that's like a 5-minute thing that I can do and increase my knowledge exponentially. So educate yourself, create a spending plan, which means I would look at your spending, whether you want to call that a budget or not, look at your spending and see where you are and aren't spending intentionally. And spending intentionally is this idea, for every purchase, you're looking at it and you're saying, whether it's $1 million or $1, does this fit in my financial plan? If the answer is no, that's obviously a non-starter. If it's yes, you move on and you say, will the joy that I get from this be greater than the price tag? If it is, then you should buy it. If it's not, then you shouldn't buy it. And so much of what we do is spend unintentionally. And so go through your budget, see where you're spending intentionally that makes sense to keep it, where you're spending unintentionally that you can scale back, and use that to create your at least 20% savings rate. And then invest in just broad, low-cost index funds, whether it's in your retirement account, whatever other investment accounts. If you're doing those things starting off, you have a good base of financial, whatever wealth building, to allow you to focus just on starting your career, because that's tough enough.
All right. So that's amazing advice, guys. That's educate yourself, blogs, books, things like that. There's a ton of books out there that are really important, but just, audiobooks when you're driving in and out, when you're doing some low level tasks, you can always listen to something or read those blogs as Jordan was mentioning. And then number 2 is really create a savings plan and really start accumulating that 20% eventually of your income. That 20%, the first step is automate that investing into something that's essentially relatively safe, which is low cost index funds. Over a long run, 5-10 years, you're going to be fine.
If I'm earning $600,000 as a physician and I'm able to go buy a handful of properties that nets me $60,000 in cash flow that I don't pay tax on, well, now I'm earning $660K in total income, but my taxes haven't actually changed. So my effective tax rate has been reduced. My total taxes I paid divided by my total income. So the idea is, how do I increase my total income without increasing my total tax? And I think that is the main gap that we see with high income earners.
That I want to say that again, Brandon, because that's like a truth bomb right
Quotable.
there. So, boom, it's like it's not necessarily increasing income, because everyone can do that. You work more hours, do whatever more things, but it's increasing income without increasing taxes.
Yeah.
And so that the more you can grow that delta, that's the name of the game. And then invest that difference and just compound that.
And I think it's really hard to visualize, especially if you're a high income earner, because it's like, okay, if I go buy a $400,000 house $300,000, let's call it $300K house that cash flows $1,000 a month, compared to my down payments, my cash on cash return, that might actually be pretty good. But $1,000 a month, if I'm earning $600,000-$700,000 a year, is not going to change my life. I'm not going to be excited about it, right? But the key is that if you bought 20 of those houses over the span of 5 to 10 years, now you're netting $20,000 a month, and that is something I can be excited about, especially if I'm not paying tax today on the net $20,000 a month, right? And then because if you do that math backwards, like netting $200K a year, but not paying tax on it is effectively like having a W-2 job of what, $350,000, right?
It's almost
so
like 1.5 times, right? The amount, or
yeah. So it's a slow build, and that's where I think a lot of high income earners get antsy. And high income earners typically look at that and they go, well, that's not something to be excited about, this $1,000 a month property. It's very hard to visualize what the future looks like. So then the next thing they do is they go, I want to eliminate my income today so I don't have to pay tax today. That's what they get all excited about. And that is where we've seen people get put into situations that are going to set them up for failure later.
Okay, I want to explore that. But before we go there, I also want to talk about, hey, yes, it's all about tax efficiency, but it's also about growing the overall nest egg. So those 20 homes, yes, they may be getting $20,000 a month, but they can all appreciate in value. It's a hedge against inflation. I mean, your net worth is going to explode because of all that.
It's honestly amazing that if you look back over the past, I started this firm technically in 2015, but I netted like $4,000. So I tell people I started in 2016. So, I started this firm in like 2016. So we've been at it for 6-7 years now. And, we've only been in an upcycle. So all the real estate investors look like geniuses, but the ones that were doing cash out refinances all the way, I kid you not, these people added $10, $20 million to their net worth. It's insane. So yes, you don't have to do that. That's definitely a more aggressive strategy, but we have seen people that have done that. And so then all of a sudden the cash flow, who cares? Right? Because now it's just an appreciation. I'm just running the market up. But the last 7 years have just been an insane explosion in growth for the real estate market. So you're exactly right. Yes, I've got the cash flow. The way that I look at it is the cash flow needs to cover the bills and give me a return. That way, any appreciation is not something I can count on. But man, if it runs up, I'm going to try to take as much advantage of that as I can.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below or simply visit vikramraya.com. So until next time, my friends, be phenomenal.